"Don't hire him, Dad. He's black," she said. Then the security guard saved her life, and her heart Sloan. Whitmore burst into her father's office at Whitmore Manufacturing without knocking, her blonde hair swinging as she marched to his desk with barely contained fury. "Dad, I just saw the new security guard you hired. Tell me you're joking." Graham Whitmore looked up from his contracts, his expression patient but tired. "Good morning to you too, Sloan. Which security guard are you referring to?" "The black one. The one who's apparently going to be my personal security detail." "Dad, what were you thinking?" Graham removed his reading glasses slowly, his disappointment evident. "I was thinking that Desmond Price is a former Marine with impeccable credentials, extensive experience in executive protection, and came highly recommended by 3 different agencies. Those were my qualifications. What are yours?" "You know what I mean. It's going to look. People are going to talk. Having him follow me around, driving me places. What will our friends say? What will the country club think?" "I don't care what the country club thinks. And frankly, Sloan, I'm ashamed to hear these words coming from your mouth. I raised you better than this. This isn't about racism. It's about appearances, about what's appropriate for our family's image. It's exactly about racism. You're objecting to a qualified professional based solely on the color of his skin. That's the textbook definition." Graham stood, his voice firm. "Desmond Price is hired. He starts today. And Sloan, you will treat him with respect, or we're going to have a much bigger conversation about your role in this company and your access to the trust fund that supports your lifestyle. You can't be serious. Completely serious. The threats against you are real. Someone vandalized your car last week. You received those disturbing letters. Whether you like it or not, you need protection. Desmond is the best person for the job. End of discussion." Sloan stormed out, slamming the door behind her. She was furious, not just about her father's decision, but about his implication that she was racist. She wasn't racist. She had black friends, well, acquaintances. Okay, she knew black people. That counted, didn't it? In the hallway, she nearly collided with the subject of their argument. Desmond Price stood outside her father's office, clearly waiting to be summoned. He was tall, probably 6'3", with a military bearing that suggested discipline and competence. He wore a perfectly fitted dark suit, an earpiece, and an expression of professional neutrality. "Ms. Whitmore," his voice was deep and courteous. "I'm Desmond Price. I'll be handling your security starting today. I know who you are. And for the record, I don't think this is necessary. I don't need a babysitter." "Respectfully, ma'am, the threats against you suggest otherwise. But I understand this is an adjustment. I'll do my best to be as unobtrusive as possible while keeping you safe." Did you hear what I said to my father? The door wasn't as soundproof as you might have hoped. Desmond's expression remained neutral, but Sloan saw something flicker in his dark eyes. Hurt? Anger? She couldn't tell. "For what it's worth, I understand your concerns about appearances. I'm used to people making assumptions based on my skin color. But I assure you, I'm very good at my job, and your safety is my only priority." Sloan felt shame creep up her neck, but pride wouldn't let her apologize. Instead, she said coldly, "Just stay out of my way," and walked toward her own office, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. Behind her, she heard her father's assistant Portia whisper to Desmond, "Don't take it personally. She's been spoiled her whole life, never had to examine her prejudices." "I won't," Desmond replied quietly. "I've dealt with worse." Over the next week, Sloan did everything possible to make Desmond's job difficult. She changed her schedule without telling him, took routes he hadn't cleared for security, and generally treated him as invisible, speaking over him, around him, but never directly to him. Her friends noticed immediately. Tessa and Brooke met her for lunch at their usual spot, an upscale bistro in downtown Portland, and both did double takes when Desmond took a table nearby, positioned to watch the entrance. "Is that your security guard?" Tessa whispered. "Girl, he's gorgeous. He's also black, in case you didn't notice," Sloan said pointedly. "So, Sloan, it's 2024. Nobody cares about that anymore." My father certainly doesn't. He hired him despite my objections. Why would you object? Brooke asked, genuine confusion on her face. The man looks like he could protect you from an army. He's got that whole military vibe going on. It's complicated. It's about image, about what people will think. People will think your father hired qualified protection for his daughter. Sloan, are you seriously making this about race? That's so disappointing. The judgment in Brooke's voice stung. These were her closest friends, and they were looking at her like she'd said something unforgivable. You don't understand. It's not about race. It's about... Sloan struggled to articulate what she meant, and the more she tried, the worse it sounded. Never mind. Forget I said anything. But she couldn't forget. That evening, as Desmond drove her home in the armored SUV her father had insisted on, she found herself studying him in the rearview mirror. He had strong features, an alert gaze that constantly scanned their surroundings, and hands that rested confidently on the steering wheel. He'd been nothing but professional all week, even when she'd been deliberately difficult. Can I ask you something? Sloan said suddenly. Of course, ma'am. Why do you do this job? Personal security, I mean. You're obviously qualified for a lot of things. Why choose to babysit spoiled rich people? Desmond's eyes met hers in the mirror. Is that what you think you are? A spoiled rich person? That's what everyone thinks. I don't know you well enough to think anything. As for why I do this work, I spent 8 years in the Marines learning to protect people. When I came back to civilian life, this felt like a natural fit. I'm good at keeping people safe, and that matters to me. Even when those people are... Sloan stopped herself. Even when those people make assumptions about me based on my skin color? Yes, ma'am. Even then. Because I don't do this job for gratitude or approval. I do it because it's right. I'm not racist, Sloan said defensively. I didn't say you were. But Ms. Whitmore, you did object to your father hiring me specifically because I'm black. What would you call that? That's not... I just meant... Sloan realized she didn't have a good answer. Can we just drop it? Of course. Desmond pulled up to her apartment building, a luxury high-rise in Portland's Pearl District. I'll do a sweep of your apartment, then position myself in the building's security office for the night. If you need anything, I'm a phone call away. As Sloan watched him efficiently check her apartment, closets, balcony, every potential hiding spot, she realized how seriously he took her safety. He wasn't just going through motions. He genuinely cared about protecting her, despite how she'd treated him. Thank you, she said quietly as he was leaving, for being professional, even when I haven't been kind. Desmond paused at the door. We all have biases, Ms. Whitmore. What matters is whether we're willing to examine them. Have a good evening. The following Tuesday, the threats against Sloan escalated dramatically. Someone left a dead bird on her car with a note. You're next. Building security cameras had been mysteriously disabled during the incident, and whoever was targeting her was getting bolder. We need to take this more seriously, Desmond told Graham in a morning meeting that Sloan reluctantly attended. The letters, the vandalism. Now this. Someone is fixated on your daughter. We need to identify who and why. Could it be related to the factory workers' lawsuit? Asked Victor Chen, Whitmore Manufacturing's head attorney. Sloan testified at the deposition last month. Maybe someone blames her for the company's position. Or the environmental protesters, suggested Iris McNally, the company's PR director. They've been vocal about Whitmore's waste disposal practices. Sloan's been the public face defending the company. We're investigating all angles, Desmond said. But in the meantime, I'm recommending increased security protocols. Ms. Whitmore shouldn't go anywhere alone. All her movements need to be pre-planned and communicated to me. That's ridiculous, Sloan protested. I have a life. I can't live in a bubble because of some lunatic. You can and you will, Graham said firmly. Sloan, this isn't a game. Someone wants to hurt you. Let Desmond do his job. After the meeting, Desmond cornered Sloan in the hallway. I know you hate this. I know you hate me being around. But your father's right. This is serious. I need you to work with me, not against me. I don't hate you, Sloan said, surprising herself with the truth. Over the past week, her initial prejudice had been slowly eroding. Desmond was competent, respectful, and genuinely seemed to care about her safety. I'm not used to being told what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm trying to keep you alive. There's a difference. That afternoon, Sloan had a meeting at the factory, Whitmore Manufacturing's main production facility on the outskirts of Portland. Desmond drove, and she noticed how he checked his mirrors constantly, varied their route, and positioned himself between her and potential threats when they entered the building. The factory tour was routine until they reached the loading docks. Sloan was talking with the floor manager, Terrell Jackson, when Desmond's body language suddenly changed. He stepped closer to her, his hand moving toward his concealed weapon. "We need to leave. Now." His voice was low but urgent. "What? Why? Don't argue. Move." Desmond gripped her arm and started walking her quickly back toward the main building. That's when Sloan heard it. A vehicle accelerating, tires squealing. She turned to see a black van speeding toward them across the loading dock, showing no signs of stopping. Everything happened in slow motion and lightning fast simultaneously. Desmond picked her up, actually lifted her off her feet, and dove behind a concrete barrier. The van crashed into a parked forklift exactly where they'd been standing seconds before. Glass shattered. Metal shrieked. Alarms blared. "Stay down," Desmond commanded, his body covering hers and protecting her from flying debris. "Don't move until I say." Sloan could barely breathe, but not because of Desmond's weight. Someone had just tried to kill her, actually tried to kill her, and Desmond had saved her life. Security personnel swarmed the dock. The van's driver was apprehended, a disgruntled former employee named Hugh Patterson, who'd been fired 6 months ago for safety violations. He was screaming about how Sloan and her father had ruined his life, how they deserved to pay. Desmond didn't release Sloan until the scene was completely secure. When he finally helped her up, his hands were gentle despite his obvious adrenaline. "Are you hurt? Did you hit your head?" "I'm fine. You saved my life." Sloan was shaking, the reality of what had just happened sinking in. "If you hadn't reacted, but I did. That's my job." Desmond's eyes scanned her for injuries, his professional demeanor back in place. "We need to get you to a hospital. Get you checked out." "I'm okay. Desmond, I'm okay because of you." Sloan grabbed his arm. "Thank you. I mean it. Thank you. Hello, my Stop Racism family. Thank you for tuning in today. Before we dive deeper into this beautiful love story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments below. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the story so far? Do you believe love can truly conquer prejudice? Let us know in the comments. We love reading them. And trust me, your words motivate us to keep making these videos. Let's make this video reach at least 50 comments. Your support means the world to us, and it drives us to create even more meaningful content for you. So don't forget to comment, share, and keep spreading love. The attack changed everything. Sloan couldn't stop thinking about those few seconds when Desmond had reacted, how he'd put himself between her and danger without hesitation. He'd literally used his body as a shield, willing to take the impact to protect her. This was the man she'd objected to hiring because of his skin color. The shame was overwhelming. That evening, Graham came to her apartment, something he rarely did. Desmond let him in after his usual security check, then discreetly positioned himself in the hallway to give them privacy. "I saw the security footage," Graham said, pulling Sloan into a hug. "My God, sweetheart. If Desmond hadn't been there." "I know, Dad. I know." Sloan was crying now, the emotions she'd been suppressing all day finally breaking through. "I was so wrong about him. So wrong. And I'm ashamed of what I said, of how I treated him." "Then tell him that. Apologize. Mean it." After her father left, Sloan approached Desmond, who was reviewing security camera footage on his tablet in her living room. "Can we talk? Actually talk?" "Of course." Sloan sat down, twisting her hands nervously. "I owe you an apology. A real one. What I said when my father hired you, how I treated you this past week, it was inexcusable. You were right. I was being racist, even if I didn't want to admit it. And today, You saved my life anyway. You protected someone who treated you terribly, and you did it without hesitation. That's my job. It's more than a job. You're more than just security. And I'm sorry it took nearly dying for me to see that. Desmond set down his tablet, his expression thoughtful. Sloan, can I call you Sloan? Please. I appreciate the apology. I do. But I need you to understand something. This isn't the first time someone has judged me based on my skin color, and it won't be the last. I've dealt with prejudice my whole life, from teachers who assumed I was a troublemaker, from cops who saw a threat instead of a citizen, from employers who questioned my qualifications. So while your words hurt, they weren't surprising. That's awful. I'm part of the problem. You were, but you're recognizing it, owning it, and hopefully learning from it. That's more than most people do. They talked late into the night. Desmond told her about growing up in Baltimore, about being raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep him and his sister Keisha in good schools, about joining the Marines to escape poverty and prove himself, about coming home from deployment to find his mother had passed away from cancer she couldn't afford to treat properly. That's why I do this work, Desmond explained. My mom sacrificed everything to keep me safe. Now I keep other people safe. It's my way of honoring her. Sloan shared her own story, growing up wealthy but isolated, with a father who worked constantly and a mother who died when Sloan was 12. How she'd learned to use her privilege as a shield. How she'd absorbed prejudices from her social circle without examining them. I've been living in a bubble, Sloan admitted, surrounded by people who think like me, who never challenge my assumptions. Today was a wake-up call in more ways than one. So, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to be better. Listen more, speak less. Actually examine my prejudices instead of denying them. And Desmond, I'd like us to start over, if you're willing. I'm willing. But Sloan, I need you to be honest with yourself about why you want to start over. Is it guilt, gratitude, or genuine interest in knowing me as a person? All 3, but mostly the last one. You're interesting, Desmond. You're smart and brave and kind, and I want to know you better. As a person, not just my security guard. Okay then, fresh start. Desmond extended his hand, and Sloan shook it, feeling the warmth and strength in his grip. Over the following weeks, Sloan's relationship with Desmond transformed completely. She started asking him questions about his military service, his family, his dreams beyond security work. She learned he loved jazz music, that he volunteered teaching self-defense classes to at-risk youth, that he was working on his MBA in his spare time. Wait, you're getting your MBA? Why didn't you tell me? You never asked. Most clients don't see me as someone with goals beyond keeping them safe. I'm not most clients anymore, am I? No, Desmond said with a smile that made Sloan's heart skip. You're definitely not. The line between professional and personal began to blur. They had coffee together in the mornings, Desmond arriving early to drive Sloan to work. They had lunch at her desk, discussing everything from politics to philosophy. And in the evenings, instead of Desmond disappearing to his security post, they watched movies together in her apartment, sitting progressively closer on the couch as the weeks passed. Sloan's friends noticed the change immediately. Tessa and Brooke met her for their weekly brunch, and both pounced the moment Sloan sat down. You're glowing, Tessa accused. And don't think we haven't noticed you've been mysteriously busy every time we invite you out. I'm not mysteriously busy. I've just been spending time with Desmond. Your security guard. Brooke's eyes widened. Sloan, are you dating your security guard? We're not dating. We're just getting to know each other. That's what people call dating, Tessa said with a grin. And girl, I told you he was gorgeous. Have you kissed him yet? Tessa, no, it's not like that. We're friends. Friends who spend every waking moment together and can't stop smiling when they're around each other. Sure, just friends. But Tessa was right. Something was developing between Sloan and Desmond, something that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. She found herself thinking about him constantly, noticing little things like how he took his coffee black, 2 sugars, and how he had a small scar above his left eyebrow from a training accident. The crisis came when Sloan's father discovered their growing closeness. Graham called her into his office, his expression concerned. Sloan, I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer. Are you developing feelings for Desmond? Sloane considered lying, then decided against it. I think so. Yes, Dad. I know it's complicated. It's more than complicated. It's potentially problematic. Not because of race, Graham added quickly, seeing Sloane's expression, but because he works for me. There's a power dynamic that makes this ethically questionable. If you're his client and effectively his employer, there's an imbalance that could be exploitative. I'm not exploiting him. I know you wouldn't intentionally. But Sloane, Desmond might feel pressured to reciprocate your feelings because you're his boss's daughter. He might worry about losing his job if he rejects you. That puts him in an impossible position. Sloane hadn't considered this angle. So what should I do? Talk to him. Be honest about your feelings, but give him space to be honest back without fear of professional consequences. And if there is something genuine between you, we'll figure out a different security arrangement. But his well-being matters too, sweetheart. Don't forget that. Sloane agonized over how to approach the conversation with Desmond. Finally, one evening after they'd finished watching a documentary about the civil rights movement, something Desmond had suggested to help Sloane understand systemic racism better, she gathered her courage. Desmond, I need to tell you something. Okay. He muted the TV, giving her his full attention. I have feelings for you. Real feelings. Not gratitude, not guilt, but actual romantic feelings. And I know that's complicated because you work for my father, and I don't want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable. But I couldn't keep pretending it's not happening. Desmond was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Sloane, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. And whatever you feel or don't feel, your job is secure. My father and I talked about it. Your employment isn't contingent on your feelings about me. I appreciate that. But Sloane, I need you to understand what you're asking for. If there's something between us, if we actually pursue this, we're not just dealing with power dynamics or professional ethics. We're dealing with a society that has strong opinions about interracial relationships, especially when it's a black man and a white woman from a wealthy family. I know. I've been thinking about it. Have you thought about how your social circle will react? How your father's business associates will respond? How strangers will look at us in restaurants, make assumptions about our relationship? Yes, and I don't care. Desmond, I spent years living according to other people's expectations. I'm done with that. If people have a problem with us being together, that's their issue, not ours. It's easy to say that now. But when it's your best friend making a comment, or your father's business partner pulling him aside with concerns, or some racist at the grocery store giving us dirty looks, it wears on you. I've dated white women before. I know how hard it can be. Then help me understand. Teach me. I want to know what I'm walking into, what challenges we'll face. I'm not naive enough to think love conquers all, but I'm brave enough to try anyway. Desmond smiled, reaching out to take her hand. You've changed so much from the woman who objected to your father hiring me. You know that? You changed me, made me see my own prejudices, my own privilege, made me want to be better. Sloane, I have feelings for you too. I've been fighting them for weeks because of exactly these complications. But watching you grow, watching you challenge yourself and your assumptions, I fell for you. The real you, not the spoiled heiress I met that first day. So what do? We take it slow. We're honest about the challenges we'll face. And we figure out a different security arrangement, because I can't protect you and date you simultaneously. That's a conflict of interest. My father suggested that too. He said he'd hire someone else for security, that you could transition to a different role in the company if you wanted. Or pursue something else entirely. I've actually been thinking about that MBA. Maybe it's time to focus on finishing it, figure out what's next for my career. They kissed then, finally, and it was everything Sloane had been dreaming about for weeks. Desmond was gentle but passionate, his hands cradling her face like she was precious. When they broke apart, both were smiling. This is really happening, Sloane said. We're really doing this. We're really doing this. And Sloane, I'm scared too, but I'm also excited. You make me want to take risks again, to believe in possibilities I'd written off. Going public with their relationship proved as challenging as Desmond had predicted. Graham was supportive, but concerned. "I want you to be happy, sweetheart. But be prepared for pushback. Not everyone will understand." The pushback came immediately. Sloane's extended family had opinions. Her Aunt Madeline called to express concern that Sloane was making a mistake. Her Uncle Gregory suggested she was rebelling against her father's expectations. And her cousin Farah simply asked, "Are you sure this isn't just a phase? Because interracial relationships are trendy right now." "It's not a trend, Farah. It's my life. I love him." Sloane's social circle was divided. Tessa and Brooke were thrilled, but other friends were less supportive. Kennedy dropped hints about Sloane dating down socially. Bethany worried publicly about what people would think. And Harper stopped returning Sloane's calls entirely. "Let them go," Desmond advised when Sloane was upset about losing friends. "If they can't support you being happy, they weren't real friends anyway. But we've known each other since college. Knowing someone a long time doesn't mean they're good for you. Sloane, you're learning who your real friends are. That's valuable information." The hardest conversation was with Whitmore Manufacturing's board members. Several expressed concern that Sloane's relationship would reflect poorly on the company, that it was inappropriate for the CEO's daughter to date a former employee, especially one who'd been in a service position. "This is exactly the kind of coded racism I was talking about," Desmond explained after Sloane relayed the conversation. "They can't say they object to me being black, so they dress it up in concerns about propriety and appearances. But what they really mean is that a black man dating a wealthy white woman disrupts their comfortable social hierarchy. So, what do? We live our lives. We don't let their discomfort dictate our choices. And Sloane, you might need to decide how much you're willing to sacrifice. If the board gives your father an ultimatum about your relationship, then I'll walk away from the company. You're more important than a job I didn't even earn. Don't make hasty decisions. Think about what you actually want from life." Over the following months, Sloane did exactly that. She'd been working at Whitmore Manufacturing because it was expected, not because she was passionate about industrial manufacturing. But what did she actually care about? The answer came during a volunteer day Desmond organized. He'd been teaching self-defense to teens at a community center, and Sloane joined him. Watching these kids, many from underprivileged backgrounds, learn skills that could keep them safe sparked something in Sloane. "I want to do something that matters," she told Desmond afterward. "Not just collect a paycheck from my father's company. I want to actually help people." "Then do it. Figure out what that looks like for you." Sloane researched nonprofits focused on youth empowerment and community development. She started volunteering regularly, using her business skills and family connections to organize fundraisers and awareness campaigns. And she discovered she was good at it, better than she'd ever been at her manufactured role at Whitmore Manufacturing. "I think I found my calling," Sloane told her father over dinner one evening. Desmond sat beside her, his hand finding hers under the table. "I want to start a foundation. Use some of my trust fund to create opportunities for underprivileged youth. Scholarships, mentorship programs, community development." "That's ambitious and wonderful," Graham smiled. "Your mother would be proud. She always wanted you to find your own path. It was Desmond who showed me I could, that I didn't have to be what everyone expected." Graham looked at Desmond with genuine respect. "You've been good for my daughter, better than I initially understood. I'm sorry if I contributed to making your relationship more difficult. You've been more supportive than most fathers would be," Desmond replied. "I appreciate that, sir." The real test came when Hugh Patterson, the man who tried to kill Sloane, went to trial. The prosecution needed Sloane to testify, to describe the attack and its impact. It meant reliving that terrifying moment and facing the man who'd wanted her dead. "I'll be right there," Desmond promised. "I can't sit with you during testimony, but I'll be in the courtroom. You're not alone." The trial was grueling. Patterson's defense attorney tried to paint Sloane as a spoiled rich girl who'd ruined Patterson's life through her father's business decisions. They brought up her initial objection to hiring Desmond, using it to suggest she was a racist who deserved what had happened. "Isn't it true, Ms. Whitmore, That you objected to your father hiring Mr. Price because he was black. Sloane looked at the jury, then at Desmond sitting in the gallery. Yes, initially I did object, and I was wrong. Completely, shamefully wrong. I had prejudices I hadn't examined, biases I'd absorbed from my social circle. But Desmond Price saved my life, despite how I'd treated him. He showed me grace I didn't deserve and helped me see my own blind spots. He's the best person I know, and I'm grateful every day that my father hired him, despite my ignorance. The courtroom was silent. The defense attorney looked like he'd expected denial, not this level of honesty. So you admit to being prejudiced against black people? I admit I had unexamined racial biases that I'm actively working to address and overcome. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not going to lie about it either. Growth requires acknowledgement. Patterson was convicted. After the trial, the prosecutor thanked Sloane for her honest testimony. That took courage. A lot of people would have deflected or minimized their past behavior. You owned it. That matters. That evening, Desmond held Sloane while she cried, releasing the stress and trauma of the trial, the attack, everything they'd been through. "I'm so proud of you," Desmond said. "What you said in that courtroom, that was brave. Real change starts with admitting where you've failed. I learned that from you. You could have written me off as just another racist white girl. Instead, you gave me room to grow, because I saw your potential. I saw someone who was ignorant, yes, but not malicious. Someone who could learn if given the chance, and you proved me right. How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments if you're loving it. Type 1, if not, type 0. We want to know what you think. 1 year after Desmond saved Sloane's life, they celebrated at the grand opening of the Whitmore Youth Empowerment Foundation. Sloane had used a portion of her trust fund to create scholarships, mentorship programs, and community development initiatives in Portland's underserved neighborhoods. "This is incredible," Desmond said, looking around at the community center they'd renovated. Local teens were taking classes, families were accessing resources, and Sloane's vision was becoming reality. "You built something that really matters. We built it. This was your idea first, teaching those self-defense classes, showing me how important community investment is. I just had the resources to scale it up." Graham gave a speech praising his daughter's growth and thanking Desmond for his service. "Desmond didn't just save my daughter's life that day at the factory. He saved who she could become. He challenged her to be better, to examine her assumptions, to use her privilege for good instead of just enjoying its benefits. Sloane, I'm incredibly proud of the woman you've become." After the ceremony, Desmond pulled Sloane aside to the center's rooftop garden overlooking Portland's skyline. "I have something to ask you." "Okay." Sloane noticed he seemed nervous, which was unlike him. "This past year has been the best of my life. You've challenged me, supported me, and loved me in ways I never thought possible. You've examined your biases, done the hard work of growth, and used your privilege to lift others up. Sloane, you're not the same person who objected to your father hiring me. You're someone better, someone I'm honored to know." Desmond dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. "I love you. I want to build a life with you, face whatever challenges come our way together. Sloane Whitmore, will you marry me?" Sloane was crying, nodding before she could even speak. "Yes, God, yes, I love you so much." The ring was perfect, not ostentatious, but beautiful and meaningful. "It belonged to my mother," Desmond explained. "It's not expensive like what you're probably used to. It's perfect because it's from you. And Desmond, I don't care about expensive things anymore. I care about meaning, about authenticity, about building something real. This ring represents everything that matters." As they kissed on that rooftop, overlooking the city where they'd met, fought, grown, and fallen in love, Sloane thought about how far she'd come. From the woman who'd said, "Don't hire him, Dad. He's black," to someone who understood that prejudice was something you actively had to fight every single day. "What are you thinking?" Desmond asked. "That I almost missed out on the love of my life because of my own ignorance. That you saved me in more ways than just that day at the factory. You saved me from becoming someone I would have hated. You saved yourself. I just pointed you in the right direction. We saved each other. That's what love is, isn't it? Two people making each other better, challenging each other to grow. That's exactly what it is. The wedding was everything Sloane had never known she wanted. Not at the country club or some exclusive venue, but at the community center, surrounded by family, friends, and the kids they mentored through the foundation. It was a blend of cultures and backgrounds, Desmond's family from Baltimore, Sloane's Portland circle, and the community they'd built together. "Do you take this man?" the officiant began. But Sloane interrupted. "Can I say something first?" "Of course." Sloane turned to Desmond, taking his hands. 2 years ago, I was the worst version of myself. Prejudiced, privileged, completely ignorant of my own biases. You could have written me off as someone not worth your time. Instead, you gave me grace. You showed me what it meant to truly see people, to value character over appearances, to fight for what's right even when it's hard. You saved my life, yes, but more importantly, you changed it. You made me want to be someone worthy of your love, and I promised to spend the rest of our lives earning it. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Desmond was crying too, his usual composure cracking with emotion. "Sloane, you're already worthy. You always have been. You just needed to see it yourself. And watching you grow, watching you challenge your assumptions and use your privilege to lift others, it's been the greatest gift of my life. I can't wait to see who we become together." After they were pronounced husband and wife, as they walked back down the aisle to thunderous applause, Desmond whispered in her ear, "How does it feel, Mrs. Price?" "Like coming home, like everything I went through. All the discomfort, all the hard conversations, all the lost friendships. It was worth it to end up here, with you." The reception featured a mix of cultures: soul food from Desmond's family traditions, Pacific Northwest cuisine from Sloane's roots, and dishes from the various communities the foundation served. It was beautiful, diverse, and exactly who they were as a couple. Tessa gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. "I've known Sloane since college, and I can honestly say I've never seen her happier than she's been with Desmond. He brought out the best in her, challenged her to grow, and loved her through the messy process of becoming a better person. That's real love, folks. Not the fairy tale kind, but the kind that makes you actually become the best version of yourself." Later, as they danced their first dance to a jazz standard Desmond had chosen, Sloane reflected on their journey, from prejudice to understanding, from ignorance to awareness, from two people from different worlds to partners building a new world together. "Thank you," Sloane whispered. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for seeing who I could be instead of just who I was. Thank you for being willing to grow. Well, not everyone is, you know. Most people would rather stay comfortable in their prejudices than do the hard work of change. I love you, Desmond Price. I love you too, Sloane Price. Forever." As they swayed to the music, surrounded by everyone who'd supported their journey, Sloane thought about her initial words to her father. "Don't hire him, Dad. He's black." The shame would never completely fade, but it served as a reminder of how far she'd come, how much she'd learned. Because Desmond hadn't just saved her life that day at the factory. He'd saved her from a life of ignorance, prejudice, and missed opportunities for genuine connection. He'd shown her that love transcends race, class, and circumstance, when both people are willing to see each other truly. And that was the greatest gift that anyone had ever given her. The security guard had saved her life, and in doing so, he'd captured her heart completely.